Tonight, construction of a multi-million-dollar stormwater pump station given the green light, set to protect Port Lincoln from flash flooding. And the launch of an all-terrain wheelchair in the mid-north to give people with disabilities the chance to explore the Flinders Ranges like never before.
This is Southern Cross News with Abby Donaldson.
Good evening, thanks for joining us. Construction of a $4.2 million stormwater pump station has finally got the green light to protect Port Lincoln from flash flooding, and some unexpected funding has helped make the project possible.
It's been a familiar sight for businesses on Liverpool Street for many years, but flash flooding is set to be a disaster of the past after Council has worked tirelessly to design a drainage system.
This stormwater treatment will be very large pumps, very high capacity, a new egress to the sea, and it will certainly help this area.
The Port Lincoln Council had committed $3.2 million, but were unsure of where the extra funding would come from for the more than $4 million project. The state's Stormwater Management Authority came to the table with a $2.1 million contribution.
If we wouldn't have got that level of funding, it's doubtful that we would have been able to proceed.
A win for council and a win for the community, the ratepayers plus the shop owners in the CBD.
The works for the new stormwater system here on Liverpool Street is set to begin next month, with completion expected for mid-next year. And for local traders who've lost up to $100,000 in damages over the years, the project is welcomed relief.
We're so thankful that the council did dedicate funds in a real timely fashion to it, and initially they were looking at other options which would have been more of a band-aid fix, but they have gone to and doing it correctly.
Casey Trelaw, Southern Cross News.
Whyalla residents are being urged to purchase concert tickets through official channels. Tickets for 2 upcoming performances were found on resale websites up to 4 times the retail price, with concerns some aren't legit.
Whyalla residents are in for an artistic treat over the summer months. Irish dancers Celtic Illusion kick it off next Tuesday, with the By the Sea concert featuring Jimmy Barnes to bring the curtain down next February. Demand for tickets has been strong, and it's caught the attention of scalpers online.
Create CRM profiles or a profile within our ticketing system, and they purchase the tickets and then they resell them for a lot more than face value.
Country arts have spotted tickets selling on Viagogo at a price 4 times their worth. Ms Sutherland says they're also providing false and misleading information to customers in order to push them into a panic buy.
Saying that there's only 3 adult tickets remaining when essentially we have over 30. Price is about $100, where in fact the adult price is actually $69.90.
Tickets for Celtic Illusion should be purchased at the box office or their website. Council has also reminded people via Facebook to go through Ticketmaster for the By the Sea concert. Ms Sutherland says while tickets on Viagogo have been valid so far, they don't want people missing out.
So there's some patrons who have purchased tickets through this website that may not be aware, so I just ask that you do check that your tickets are valid.
And outside of contacting your bank, there are steps you can take if you feel ripped off.
Also make a complaint to the website in which you've purchased, and then if you can, contact ACCC and also the police.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
7 people will face court after being charged over a brawl in Whyalla last month. At around midnight on September 1, police were called to a hotel on Forsyth Street after reports of a disturbance. A number of people were removed and some were treated for minor injuries. Police reviewed the CCTV and have now laid the charges. The 5 men and 2 women aged between 19 and 29 were charged with aggravated affray. They were bailed to appear in Whyalla Magistrates Court and have been barred from licensed premises. Police have arrested a 31-year-old man in Port Pirie for allegedly trafficking methamphetamine. A Ford Territory was stopped on Esmond Road for a random drug test, with the driver, a 26-year-old local woman, testing positive. A further inspection of the vehicle led to the seizure of a quantity of drugs and drug paraphernalia. It's alleged the male passenger within the vehicle was the owner of the contraband. He was refused police bail. Member for Giles Eddie Hughes is calling on the federal government to increase dole payments by $75 a fortnight. He says a recent report from Deloitte shows the increase would be a boost for the local economy.
Dole payments have not increased in worth since 1994, with increases limited to just increasing CPI. However, as the cost of essentials such as food and fuel rise, there's concerns people are being left behind. Member for Giles Eddie Hughes says the federal government needs to lift the allowance by $75 a fortnight.
Somebody receiving New Start is $355 per fortnight below the poverty line.
Mr Hughes' support is based on a report by Deloitte Access, which show the benefit it could do in the Upper Spencer Gulf. For Whyalla, the increase would see an extra $6 million tipped into the local economy. The economies of Port Augusta and Port Pirie would increase by $4 and $4.8 million respectively.
Would actually generate additional jobs in local economies because we've got more money going around.
Mr Hughes also says his office is hearing heartbreaking tales of the struggles some are facing.
Anybody on New Start is doing it hard, and they're way below.
The allowance has some unusual allies nationwide. Business groups, unions, even former PM John Howard support a fortnightly increase. Current PM Scott Morrison, however, has rejected the calls, saying he doesn't want New Start to become a payment people live on. John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
Still to come tonight, the launch of an all-terrain wheelchair in the Mid-North to give people with disabilities the chance to explore the Flinders Ranges like never before. And Port Lincoln to soon play host to a new league of squash players, with new specialised squash courts coming to the leisure centre. Hello again. A 4-star Port Augusta cabin park, which has been 3 years in the making, has finally started construction. Owners are hopeful to have stage 1 completed by mid-next year, which would have a sleeping capacity of over 300 beds.
After years of planning, the trucks and graders are finally laying the foundations for the $10 million cabin park.
It's so exciting. After 3 years, it's all go now. A lot of water under the bridge.
Early construction on stage 1 of the project is underway, which once completed will house 115 cabins. Work has already started to clear the Port Augusta site, while many of the cabins are already being built in Port Pirie.
We've got sheds going up in November, and we're starting on the main infrastructure at first.
The anticipated project was announced late last year and was propped up by a $1 million grant from the previous state government. Original plans were to get the first rooms up and running by the end of this year.
In hindsight, we would have loved to have been open a little bit earlier, but it is a big project and there's a lot of processes to go through. So thankfully, we're now through them.
And with an influx of workers expected to pack their bags for Port Augusta next year for a number of renewable energy projects, the park can't come soon enough.
And this is going to service some of the up-and-coming needs that we have here in Port Augusta and broadly the Upper Spencer Gulf region.
There are also future plans for a cafeteria, shop and water park. And with stage 1 up and moving, negotiations are already underway for stage 2, meaning in 3 years' time, the cabins could hold up to 800 people.
The site has got an enormous amount of potential and we can't wait to get stage 1 done and dusted and to move on and make it bigger and better.
Garth Burley, Southern Cross News.
A new off-roading wheelchair is set to change the lives of people with disabilities in the Mid-North. The $100,000 Trail Rider opens up a world of possibilities, giving people a chance to explore the Flinders Ranges off the beaten track.
Some of the most pristine locations in the southern Flinders Ranges have often been out of reach for people with a disability, but the Trail Rider is set to change this. Alan Clark and Quinton Vanderwerf from local tour operator in the Flinders have made it all a reality, securing the expensive wheelchair with the help of an NDIS grant.
People are aware that it's here as a service for whatever their needs might be, so we can take people out onto trails, we can take them to any location really that a traditional wheelchair wouldn't normally be able to access.
The pair currently own the only known trail rider in the state, and it has already caught the attention of numerous people who are eager to embark on an outdoor adventure where a normal wheelchair, scooter or other mobility device wouldn't have access to.
Yeah, it's amazing just where it can go. We've even had inquiries from people from someone that's interested in taking it to Kokoda, which we're seriously considering.
As the trail opens up for people, so do the possibilities. The Trail Rider has a myriad of opportunities outside of just tourism, with people inquiring about using it for crop inspections and even for Indigenous elders to be able to visit country. Visitors to the region have already expressed interest in hiring the trail rider. In the Flinders are in the process of establishing a website to make it easier for people to book the chair. Dominic Beaton, Southern Cross News.
Port Lincoln will soon play host to a new league of squash players, with 3 new specialised squash courts to be built at the leisure centre.
It's the fast-paced sport gaining a resurgence in country SA. But for players in Port Lincoln, they've had to travel hundreds of kilometres just to play a game.
Travelling to Arno Bay, 125 k's each way from my place. Yeah, people laugh at me when I do that, but you've got to do it if you like the sport.
John has been playing competitive squash for almost 50 years and has been successful in pushing the council to include 3 new squash courts in the final stage of the leisure centre upgrades.
There's a lot of squash players here. You're surprised when you're talking to them and talking to the locals, and they're all keen to get courts ready to go.
Chris started playing the indoor sport in high school and was hoping to continue playing when he moved to Port Lincoln earlier this year.
I was very disappointed when I heard that they didn't have any squash courts, and then when I heard that there was squash courts going to be coming, I wanted to get myself involved.
Together, John and Chris have reinstated a Port Lincoln squash club and are on the hunt for players of all ages to join.
To start off with, we'll just get a few people to just come and have a hit, just so then we can get numbers. And then we'll look at getting a squash competition going, and also then look towards maybe even racquetball and also some junior competitions.
Construction of the leisure centre and the new courts is expected to be completed mid-next year. For those interested in giving the sport a go, head to the Port Lincoln Squash Club's Facebook page. Casey Trelaw, Southern Cross News.
Female students from John Pirie Secondary School will be jetting off to Queensland to compete in the Oceania School Futsal Championships. They'll be putting their footwork on the world stage, facing off against teams from interstate and overseas.
Futsal, a type of indoor soccer, has been growing in popularity within John Pirie Secondary School for a number of years, and this all-girls team is ready to show the world some of their skills.
We're going to Brisbane for the Oceania competitions for soccer.
The girls have been training hard in preparation to face off against some high-calibre teams, and their coach is expecting them to perform well. Port Pirie has gained a reputation as a fierce competitor, confidently being able to keep pace with some of the big high schools in Adelaide.
I'm very hopeful that the girls will be successful. I believe they are more than capable of achieving, wins, and if we do come home with, some silverware, then that's fantastic, and I applaud them for it.
Beyond the competition itself, it's a great chance for students to be able to travel together as a team and make some memories. And a few days in the Sunshine State isn't bad either.
Well, in the end, the girls are going to remember this for the rest of their lives. No matter what, when you finish school, you always remember the camps and the competitions that you go off to represent your school.
The competition will be kicking off tomorrow. Dominic Beaton, Southern Cross News.
Good luck, girls. We'll stay with us after the break. We'll have the region's fuel prices, and in the weather, the mercury is set to soar to end the week, and it's going to be very windy too. I'll have all the local weather details soon. Welcome back, and now it's time to take a look at this week's fuel prices. Here's Garth.
Well, it was another brutal week at the Bowsers for rural motorists, with the city the only spot experiencing a big drop in price. Looking across the board to unleaded, and many of the regions are still seeing red. Port Lincoln and Port Augusta have both shot to nearly $1.65, while Port Pirie and Kadina are slowly creeping towards the $1.60 mark. Residents in the Silver City will be hit hardest, with the price at the pump jumping 7 cents. Whyalla has had a small decrease, still around that $1.63, and if you're travelling to and from Adelaide, now is the time to fill up, with the price dipping almost 10 cents to $1.54. However, diesel in the city is still quite pricey, up to $1.60. Whyalla and Port Augusta have both increased to around the middle 160s. Port Lincoln is up to $1.62, and diesel heads in Kadina experienced the biggest hike, edging close to $1.64. At Port Pirie there was no change, and a bit of refuge for Broken Hill, with the price dropping just under the $1.63 mark. And remember, these prices are the regional averages and do not reflect any one particular outlet. And if you find a spot that sells unleaded or diesel for cheaper, let us know on our Facebook page.
Thanks, Garth, and let's check out what's happening in the weather. Well, it was a mostly fine day around the Gulf today. 24 was the max for Port Augusta. It was a cloudy one in Port Lincoln, 18 the top, and Port Pirie saw the odd shower. On the satellite, low cloud over southeastern SA and extending along the coast with the low and onshore winds is bringing some scattered showers. Skies are mostly clear elsewhere in the state as high pressure takes over. On the waters for your Thursday, easterly shifting northwesterly winds up to 10 knots, seas at 2 metres with a south-southwesterly swell, and the sun will pop up at 6:36 tomorrow morning and sunset will be just after 7:30. Well, temperatures are set to soar tomorrow for a mostly sunny day, looking like gorgeous conditions for all centres. Port Augusta will reach a top of 28 degrees, Whyalla 24 for you, a bit of cloud cover about for Port Lincoln, 21 the top there. Well, it's looking like wild and windy conditions to end the week as it warms up even more. Cleve 29 for you on Friday, Woodna 30 degrees, but temps will dip back down for Saturday in the low 20s, and looking like a lovely sunny day for Sunday, Port Lincoln 23. Again, windy for Friday, and gee whiz, it's going to be a hot one in Port Augusta. 35 the top for you on Friday, but the good news is it'll calm down for Saturday, fine conditions and much cooler, and nothing but sunshine forecast for Sunday. Whyalla reaching a top of 26 degrees. Warm and windy here too for Friday, Port Pirie 34 degrees, before temps cool off for Saturday, a mix of sunshine and cloud about. Port Pirie and Broken Hill both heading for a top of 23 degrees, and sunny skies for Sunday, Port Pirie heading for a top of 27 degrees. And that's all the local news this Wednesday. Thanks for your company. Remember, if you have a story for us, visit our Facebook page or send us an email to localnews@sea.com.au. I'll have updates later. Until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.